Hello everybody and welcome back to the Apex to Apex podcast with your host me, Stanley Jones, where we discuss all things Formula 1 and MotoGP, and yet again we have another MotoGP race weekend coming up. It's been a while since I've discussed anything other than MotoGP, as Formula 1 is in this weird little limbo of not having races because of the cancellations, so I can't really do the other segments, but I'm not complaining because I do love myself some MotoGP. And this weekend they are returning to the circuit Barcelona to Catalunya in Spain, obviously Barcelona if you couldn't figure that one out, and as usual there are some talking points still. There is no Marc Marquez again this weekend, and the championship response is needed by the championship leader Marco Bezzecchi. What we'll be discussing in this quick review today is effectively how the championship picture looks without Marquez on the grid and what the Aprilia guys are doing, the Ducati revelation that's come out since an interesting inside Ducati video was released recently, showing Marquez explain his injury problems, the paddock politics, especially of Honda and Aprilia coming up, and the fact that we'll be going live on Twitch again this weekend. So if we go straight into the initial part being the Catalunya circuit itself, and some of the moments it's had in its history, because it's been a part of the motorsport history for quite a while now. It's a technically demanding track with a very rich history itself. So the circuit itself is okay, kind of dull for me I think because I've seen it for many years, which isn't complaining. It's one of those solid tracks where it has all the corners you need. Is why it's good for testing, but it's been in MotoGP for many years. It's been in Formula 1 since 1991. It does have 14 corners. It has that long straight down from the last corner to turn 1, the main straight, and you'll get some good camera shots there because there's a bridge just above it where the cameraman, a brave cameraman, on the bridge is on like a big what's it called, scale thing, completely forgot the name of it. He goes in it and it raises him to the sky. Anyway, he's got the camera so you look straight down the main straight as the bikes are coming down and go underneath the cameraman himself, and that's where you'll see the passes on the brakes into turn 1 and 2. It's a chicane longer than the chicanes we had in Le Mans, but you've got the right hander which flows quite well, not that type of of an apex. When that goes straight into the flip-flop of turn 2, we see many overtakes there. You'll see people try and get the undercut from turn 1 into turn 2, but there's never enough room on entry, because if the move is done into turn 1 you can cover it easily into turn 2. One of the most demanding things about this circuit itself is the long corners and the amount of long, medium to high speed corners there are here, and it is a test for bike stability and rider commitment as well. You have these long corners which turns the majority into a hard braking zone, which favours the more aggressive riders, especially that's shown over the years. So you go from turn 2 straight away, you're on the right side of the track, but you've got to lean the bike instantly to a long turn 3 which kind of does a 180 on itself at medium speed, and you'll see on the exit of turn 3 the riders, the confident ones, will be leaving the black marks coming out the exit as they go to the left side of the track on the long exit going into turn 4. There, the little straight turn 4, you will see some overtakes down the inside, especially ones with the ones I love where late on they'll surprise the rider going under the bridge into turn 4, where it's a tight apex, a tight entry at the start, but then just like turn 3 it opens up towards the end, and then we go into the dangerous turn 5. Why do I call turn 5 so dangerous? It's because you come out of turn 4, and because of the way the corner exits, because as I said it's a long opening corner at the end, you're on the left side of the track, the riders will come to the right side of the track, they don't have that much time to go back on the brakes, then suddenly they're braking downhill. The apex goes downhill for this. It's the corner where you'll see Jorge Martin, he'll do it again, it's his party trick every year, he'll do one lap where his shoulder is actually touching the curb. It's that famous corner, the tight left-hander at turn 5, but because of the way there is, they've been going right for so long now, with the only left-hander since the start of the lap being the quick kink at turn 2. They're braking now, having to use the left side of the front tyre, braking downhill, and it's the place where you will see people drop the front, and it happens every year in every session. People will drop the front at turn 5. The one I remember most was a couple years ago, might have been 2024 actually, when Pecco Bagnaia was fighting Jorge Martin for the title, and he was leading, might have been the sprint race, leading comfortably the entire sprint race, and on his own on the final lap dropped it in turn 5 itself. So you expect to see that as they come out of turn 5, the ones who survive it, downhill even more, under a bridge. The turn 6 doesn't count, it's a kink. You'll see the riders lean at full speed through this kink of 6 into turn 7 and 8. Now they come back uphill. Turn 7 is one of the similar ones. It's similar to turn 2, maybe a bit tighter on turn 2 because they're coming also at a higher speed. You clip the apex to turn 7 and it tightens, flip the bike for turn 8, which is a little kink going all the way back up the hill into the fast turn 9. I don't know if they take turn 9 in 4th or 3rd gear, but the main point of turn 9 is you want to get the exit perfect, because the exit leads to the medium length straight effectively between turn 9 and 10. So you'll see riders come out of turn 9, carry the speed, they'll use the exit curve on turn 9, get the Reinhardt device on, and then bolt it down to turn 10. It will take us mere humans a solid 10 minutes to walk this, maybe 12 minutes to walk it. It will take the bikes 3 to 4 seconds to go from turn 9 to the apex of turn 10, which again is a long corner, tight apex on entry. You'll see riders go to the apex earlier, then they let the bike spread out wide because they can, because of how long the radius is on the exit. Is a long curving backwards C effectively, which goes into turn 11, which continues his curve back round, and then 11, you again left side of the circuit, they then quickly throw it to another long corner, turn 12. You'll see overtakes here if they can follow through turn 11 the exit into the apex of turn 12. Turn 12 is like a C, just picture a normal C, speed, but a right-hander coming again 180 back on itself, come out of turn 12, left side of the circuit, throw it into turn 13, which is a rapid corner on these bikes. Right-hander, it's almost 90 degrees, but it's fast. They'll just clip the inside curb in the apex, use again all the exit curb at high speed, and do the exact same thing for turn 14, which tightens again towards the exit, but you need to get the exit and entry perfect for 14, as that leads you onto the long straight. Get those two corners wrong, you've ruined your lap, and you've now ruined the next lap coming for you. Turn 14 is where Marquez did one of his best saves, arguably his best save, where in 2018 I think it was, with a front drop, he somehow picked it up, and even he knew it was a very good save, because the way he celebrated afterwards says it all if he is celebrating his own save. Now, there's been a lot of moments in racing at this circuit. We can all picture 2009, the Valentino Rossi versus Jorge Lorenzo race, where they battled the entire race, especially the last 4 laps, and Rossi ended up pipping Lorenzo in the final corner of turn 13 on the final lap to win the race. I also think of Rossi at when did he beat Marquez? Rossi went head to head with Marquez in 2016. They didn't have the last 2 corners as they were then, because of what happened sadly to Louis Salom, so they added the chicane that Formula 1 used for quite a few years. Thankfully nobody uses that horrifying chicane anymore, but they used it in 2016. It went in Rossi's favour, helped Rossi's riding style. He managed to pit Marquez in 2016. That was a good battle. I remember his move particularly, I think it was on the outside on the brakes of turn 1, where both of them were on the limit of their bikes. It's also the place where Jorge Martin, we'll mention this later, but he wrapped up his 2024 world title at Catalunya as it replaced Valencia because of the floods that was happened. And I also picture, there was a race there in 2007 MotoGP. You had Stoner versus Pedrosa versus Rossi. That was a battle that you'll see on YouTube over and over again. I also think of 2006, where the big shunt happened down into turn 1 on lap 1, with Gibernau going over his bike before the braking zone at turn 1, bringing Caparossi, bringing the Kawasaki's, bringing Marco Bellangi in with him, bringing Colin Edwards with him. Of course, the race was red flagged, one of those big shunts you remember when you see it. But also away from MotoGP, he's had his moments in Formula 1 recently. It was Max Verstappen's first win there in 2016 in Formula 1. It was the race same 2016 when the Mercedes duo of Hamilton and Rosberg took each other out. We've got Michael Schumacher winning in 96 in the rain, his first win for Ferrari in that race. We've got Ayrton Senna and Nigel Mansell famously going down the main straight just looking at each other with the sparks flying, which is one of my favourite clips to watch. Now Stanley's become more of a test track, especially for cars, or Formula 1 cars. I shouldn't beat GT cars in that category as well, because their racing is entertaining there, but Formula 1 maybe because of the way and the nature the cars are now, and they all the drivers know the track as well. MotoGP produces better racing than it does for Formula 1 nowadays, purely because it's MotoGP. It can race anywhere. Well, that's a bit harder now, but hopefully next year with the 850cc engines and a bit less aero, it can race anywhere again. But the MotoGP race will be more entertaining at Catalunya than what the Formula 1 one will be. But I've mentioned his name, so let's go into what can happen this weekend. And as I said, Marc Marquez is absent. The question is, who will take advantage of this? Every rider on the grid now has an opportunity, knowing he's not going to be there. And you could question, why am I saying that, considering he hasn't really been competitive at the front all season? And that's because of his injury. So as I said in the previous episode and on the stream on Sunday, I had a feeling, and everyone who knows Marc as well, has watched him long enough, has a feeling when Marc's got something wrong with him, and he had something in his shoulder. As we said in the previous episode on the review that came out on Monday, if you haven't seen it, go and check it out on Spotify and YouTube now. Marquez has had a bolt that moved in the Indonesia crash, a bolt that's been there since December 2019, the surgery back then to sort his dodgy shoulder at the time when it was a bit wobbly, and the bolt moved, and when he sits in a position on the bike, the bolt presses against his nerve in his shoulder, which is the nerve that controls his arm feeling, his strength effectively, and he loses feeling of 3 fingers in his hand. Bear in mind, that's the braking hand. He has won 2 sprint races with this happening, by the way. And what I will mention is that Ducati do good videos at the end of every race weekend. It comes out on Wednesdays, I think, called Inside Ducati, where you are with them throughout the weekend. They show clips, and they kept the clip in. It's a long clip of Marquez speaking to his team about his injury, about he's going to take up the surgery after Catalunya anyway, but now they're going to speed it forward because of his foot injury suffered in his crash from Le Mans. And you can see how emotional he was when he was telling about this injury that has crept back up, and he feels disappointed that he's had to sort this out now. But he said something where he can still go fast. I mean, in Q1 in Le Mans, he did set a lap record, and it's the only lap where he's just gone through the pain. And this man doesn't feel fear. He can go through pain like no one else. But he went through the pain and did set a lap record on that Ducati to get through to Q1, and then couldn't quite do it again because he couldn't get his arm in that comfortable position again, and he loses his strength even quicker. And he laughed when he said, look at my Q1 lap. And he mentions how he is half a second away from his limit. Right, so just for people who aren't aware about Marc Marquez, if this surgery works, because he's happy to risk the surgery, he won't race this weekend, thankfully. There was rumours he might pop in a race. That would be ridiculous. If I was him, I'd aim for Mugello next weekend. For those who aren't aware, if this surgery is a success, which it seems like it has been for Marc Marquez, and he can get back to full fitness, or the fitness he had last year on the bike. Bear in mind, this injury is only affecting him when he's on the position on the bike itself, not in normal life, only on the bike. Nobody will see him. He will do again what he did last year, and he will prove, in my opinion, how he's the greatest of all time. Nobody will get near him. Aprilia have their moment in the sun now, with Bezzecchi and Martin. The cameras are on them. The cameras are focusing on the battle they're doing. They need to take advantage of this, because if Marc can come back full fitness, Marc won't just hunt them down. They'll have to hunt Marc because he'll already be ahead of what he's doing. They will have to chase him. It won't be Marc chasing Martin and Aprilia. It will be them chasing Marquez like it was last year, and it could be a similar approach. Coming into the midpoint of the season, the main European rounds where Marc won, 7 races and 7 sprints in a row. If he's in full fitness, he'll do it again. That's why I said every rider has an opportunity, but who is capable of doing it? And it will be the Aprilias, but they have to. If the Aprilias trip over each other, they're right in their own P45s in Aprilia, because they need to understand this is the opportunity. Build the gap to Marquez. It's nearly 100 points now. It will become 100 points. You could probably argue, or near it, after Catalunya going into Mugello. But every weekend is now open, and every weekend this season so far, now we know, has been open because of this injury to Marc. It changes the dynamic at the front, and it changes the dynamic of the entire season itself. It also gives Ducati a bit of breathing room as to their performances with Marc on the bike this year. Pecco is still a question mark of what he's doing when he fell off, and they'd say that again, they know why. That needs solving, but at the same time, he's probably not going to be on the Ducati next year, so the focus is on Marc, and it's less embarrassing for Ducati now, knowing that Marc took the option to not tell anyone about the injury. Delinia knew him, and his chief engineer knew. No one else knew. So it saves Ducati the fear of being embarrassed for their performance itself. Because the performances haven't been ideal. We know Marc's, like I just said, that after Catalunya, it could be 100 points, bang on, he's missed a race, will miss 2 races. But this will help them kind of know their bike is competitive. Again, looking at Q1, again, looking at qualifying, they were 1 and 2 on the grid, so the bike speed is there. They just need to fit Marquez on it. And that's the Ducati revelation. They're half a second off his limit now, and the gap he trails to Aprilia pretty much every lap this season has been a half a second, sometimes even closer. And if he comes back fit, as I said, Aprilia will have to watch out. The video reveal is incredible. Ducati have actually released this video because it feels like they also know, and Marc and is confident that he can come back to the full fitness. But he said in this video he's been riding with 1.5 arms. Now, if you put it into context, half a second in MotoGP is an enormous margin to be lacking by when you know why you're lacking it. There was the crash, and Jerez made him go and check it because he didn't understand why he was crashing. As soon as he realised, he said it could have been a mental block, but as soon as he realised it was something physically that he needs to sort out in the surgery room, instantly he did it. And that kind of reframes the entire season with the inconsistency of the bike, the crashes. Again, him saying it's him, not the bike, completely right. All of it was completely right of what he's saying. Ducati are lacking Aprilia in pace, yes, but when Marc's fit, they won't be. Which again, put the focus on his 2 sprint wins. Yes, they were positive, and he had luck in Jerez for the timing of his crash, and then Bezzecchi dropping it and being uncompetitive with Brazil, but that also makes 2 sprint wins with that status of his arm in that physical condition remarkable. A fully fit Marquez on that Ducati, again, is going to be a frightening project. A fully fit Marquez on any bike is a frightening project. But if he can come back in Mugello and be competitive and beat the Aprilias in Mugello, then I don't think it'll take long for the gap to close. If he comes back in Mugello and he's competitive, but the gap is still there to Aprilia, then they'll have that breathing room of, okay, we still got the time there. If he beats them in Mugello, it won't take long because they're not mentally strong enough. The best riders in the world. Best absolute riders in the world, but we're talking about my opinion in this situation. The best riders in the world are not the level Marc Marquez is on the bike or mentally, and Marc will hunt them like a great white hunting prey. But then go back to the video Ducati released, the transparency in releasing that, calculated or genuine. I think it was both. Calculated because they want to put fear into the likes of Aprilia, into the likes of everyone else for saying that Marc is going to come back, and genuine because they have that confidence, and Marc had the confidence that their surgery will work, which again changes the narrative of the Ducati struggles this season. But speaking of the Ducati narratives, that also we've mentioned Aprilia a lot, so we need to focus on them because they are the championship leaders, with Bezzecchi leading Martin by a point now, and even Agura getting a podium last time out to make it an all Aprilia podium. There is 1 point between them, and the pressure is now shifted onto Bezzecchi for the first time this season, and realistically for the first time in his Aprilia tenure, the pressure's on him to respond, purely because of the form of Martin going into Le Mans. I said maybe he was slightly more favourite than Bezzecchi going into Le Mans. I didn't think Martin would win the Saturday and the Sunday, it being the Sunday where he even caught Bezzecchi throughout the race, being at 1.4 seconds back or something in 7th, and Bezzecchi was leading, catching him and passing him, which again puts the pressure firmly on on Bezzecchi. You could ask, how does a rider prepare mentally for a weekend knowing they have to perform and knowing they have to respond? We've never seen Bezzecchi in this situation where he's got this level of mental pressure. We've seen him before under pressure where sometimes he's succeeded and sometimes he's dropped it, but he's never been in a position where he's leading the championship and his gap is closed, especially to his teammate. His gap is closed, and it will feel like the wall. If Martin again beats him this weekend in Spain, it would feel like the walls are going to close in on him quickly. Considering Martin is not confirmed anywhere next year, the rumours are Yamaha could Aprilia turn around. There's no official deal for Bagnaia yet, even though again it's rumoured, so we don't know what's happening with Martin yet officially. And there's definitely a Martin at that point then won't care about team orders or teamwork because he's racing for himself. He's not there next year, if you believe what's to be written and believe what's strongly rumoured, which means Martin will not hold back against racing Bezzecchi. He's not bothered by the team constructor. They'll say it in the interview, they're not bothered by it. But again, he had the perfect Le Mans, and Bezzecchi cannot hesitate in responding to what Martin did. Bezzecchi needs, I'm not saying he needs to do pole position, sprint win and Sunday win, but he needs to beat Martin. Wherever Bezzecchi is, and so wherever Martin is, Bezzecchi needs to be the bike ahead of him. And this is the kind of pressure that defines whether a rider can be a champion or not. Martin lacked this whereabouts to handle the pressure in 2023, but responded in 2024 to show that he can do this pressure, he can handle it. He's learned it from the year before and his mistakes to get it across the line. Bagnaia did the same thing when he raced Quartararo in the 2021 season and made the mistakes, and Quartararo managed to win the championship. Learn it in 2022 and 2023. They all make these lessons. They all learn these lessons. They all make these mistakes, and this could be the defining moment for Bezzecchi himself. Does he need the extra year fighting for the championships to learn these things and to reduce these errors and to learn this mental strength? But as I said, if Marc Marquez comes back strong, Marc's got the mental strength like no one can compare on these bikes, so that's another challenge which I'm sure he's hoping to avoid. And similar to Le Mans, Martin has had success here in the past. I said he won the 2024 championship here. He's won a race here before. Might have been the same year, I don't quite remember. I think it was the same year he won it. And Bezzecchi is yet to win here, I believe. So that's again advantage Martin in that sense when it comes to experience at the front. Not just speaking at the front, there are other teams at the front or making their way to the front if they stopped dropping the bike, being one rider in particular, and that's Honda, because there has been some Honda paddock politics happening, as Alberto Puig, who has been team principal effectively of the Honda factory Honda team for many years, as long as I can remember, seems to be moving into a more advisory role next year. And there's rumours with this managerial shuffle with big implications, there's moves at Davide Brivio, who was at Suzuki, then went to Formula 1 for a little bit, didn't like Formula 1, came back to where his passion is being bikes. At the Trackhouse Aprilia team, who are again on their way up, similar to Honda in a way, Puig will move into an advisory role at Honda, possibly opening the door for Brivio to move into the team principal role in the factory Honda. But what does that mean for the team itself? I think it's a good step for him. I think everyone has that expiry date, and Puig might be there now. Maybe it needs to be a more leadership role in terms of the direction of the team, not just what the race team are doing on the weekends itself. And Brivio is fully involved in, look what he's done with Trackhouse Aprilia since he joined. They're now front runners of Agura and even Raul Fernandez. Both their riders are 5th and 6th. So it's a shame for Trackhouse, but it's a gain for Repsol Honda. It's not Repsol Honda, it's the Honda HRC, isn't it? I'm so used to calling them Repsol Honda, but it's a gain, for HRC Honda, factory Honda, whatever you want to call them. They'll always be Repsol in a weird way. But that is a significant paddock move, and also who moves into Brivio's seat if he does leave Trackhouse Aprilia to go to Honda, and what happens to Trackhouse Aprilia itself, because they're not going to keep their riders, because Fernandez might be there, but again, rumours are Ayagura won't be there next year, he'll go to a factory ride. Honda's decline, when you think about it, started when Marquez got injured, and it's been one of the stories of the modern MotoGP era, just how bad they went after Marquez got injured, came back and left, and Honda were dreadful. The fact that Honda and Yamaha have been at the back for this many years is painful, but with the concessions and with the development of the bike and what they're doing, Honda have made step forwards if they stayed on the bike. I mentioned the joke earlier, but it's not a joke because Mir can't stay on the thing. He'll be competitive. He gets in the top 10 now regularly, which is a very good sign for Honda. He fights for 6th, 7th, 8th, but he'll drop it, and they can't keep affording that. Same with Marini, but Marini drops it less, but Marini's never as high up as Mir is, which is possibly why Marini could be on his way out, and maybe Mir will be on his way out too. So Honda could go into next season with a new team principal and 2 new riders, if you believe the rumours that possibly they've signed Fabio Quartararo from Yamaha, and maybe a Moto2 guy will come up. Maybe Moreira will get the factory ride, or maybe it could be, I don't remember the name, but there's a couple from Moto2 linked to the factory ride in Honda, which will be strange if they make that move, but if they do sign Quartararo, that's a coup in itself. And Honda needs to be competitive, just like Yamaha, but Yamaha aren't going to be there anywhere near the time where Honda are going to be back at the front. Honda needs to be competitive for their sake, and really MotoGP, considering it's Honda itself, and Honda is one of those teams where you look at MotoGP, you look at bike racing, you do think Honda. You see bikes on the road, a lot of them are Honda, and their struggle is painful to watch. It has been for the last 3, 4, maybe even 5 years at this point when you think about it. Mark got injured 6 years ago. Bloody hell. But when you think about it, Honda have had their time to recover. They are recovering. Wouldn't surprise me if they get rid of Mir or the new team principal Brivio, or if they've already got rid of Mir because they need points, and Mir's not doing that. Mir gives them a promise of points, but then takes the gravel in every race. So it's when you've fallen off of half the races you've entered in that team, it says it all. What we'll do before we quickly end this is just say that the Apex to Apex will be live on Twitch yet again for Saturday and Sunday, for the sprint race on Saturday and the main race on Sunday. Just for timing reasons, the sprint race will be ahead at 2 p.m, so I'll go live maybe 1:45, 10 to 2, similar to the same as last week, and I imagine Sunday will be 1 o'clock. I am just checking. Sunday is 1 o'clock, so I'll be live again 1:45 or 10 to 1. But yes, we will be live on Twitch on the Apex to Apex pod account for both races again. We had a great attendance and interaction and good viewership last Saturday's sprint race, which surprised me. We're hoping to keep that up again. It would be exactly what you expect from the stream, but before, more interactions, maybe a face cam if I can set that up in time. I'm just not sure if I can have the time to set that up, but we're hoping to keep the interactions up anyway. It'll be the same with the live timing on stream. I'm learning the live timing more for the MotoGP platform, as it's quite annoying because when you click pause and then play again, when you pause it doesn't stop like the F1 one instantly. You have to wait till the dots stop moving and then time it to play again to get it going. But expect the live timings, but honest reactions, honest commentary from me, and interaction in the chat. Again, the Twitch handle is Apex to Apex pod, and that'll be it for the review coming into the Barcelona weekend for MotoGP. Thank you for listening to this one. Going to be a kind of short one, as reviews always are, but it is another big weekend ahead. And is it the last opportunity riders have to pull their gap to Marc Marquez? Personally, I think so. If he comes back fully fit, then they are in trouble. I've plugged the Twitch twice. I'm not going to plug that one again, but I am going to plug the Instagram account, Apex to Apex podcast on Instagram. Give that one a follow. Follow this Spotify as well, Apex to Apex podcast, and now the YouTube channel, where these episodes will also be uploaded along with the Twitch streams to Apex to Apex pod on YouTube. Subscribe if you don't want to miss those ones. Follow me on all the platforms I've plugged, and I'll leave you with the punchline of this podcast, which is the race is just the punctuation. I'll see you on Saturday on Twitch.